Hello and welcome back to Rapid Report, your source for the latest in-depth political and legal news that shapes our world. Tonight, we bring you a story that has shaken Washington to its core. Attorney General Pam Bondi faces intense scrutiny after a Republican prosecutor revealed that critical Jeffrey Epstein-related documents may have been withheld from the public, contradicting her repeated claims of full disclosure. From an 86-page SDNY prosecution memorandum to draft indictments naming Epstein's co-conspirators and internal DOJ emails about charging decisions, the missing files have sparked fierce debate in Congress and across the nation. This is not just a legal issue, it's a political earthquake that could have far-reaching consequences for credibility, accountability, and justice at the highest levels of government. Stay tuned as we break down every detail of this hearing, analyze the evidence presented, and explore the political and societal ramifications. Make sure you hit that subscribe button, click the notification bell, and give this video a like because you won't want to miss any updates on this developing story. And if you find this coverage important, share it with your friends and family to keep everyone informed. In a recent hearing that shook Washington, Attorney General Pam Bondi faced explosive revelations regarding her handling of the release of files related to Jeffrey Epstein. Bondi had publicly claimed that the Department of Justice, DOJ, had made all documents required under the Epstein Files Transparency Act available to the public. However, this statement was dramatically challenged by a Republican prosecutor unexpectedly from her own political camp. Bondi announces the Epstein list. The controversy began when Bondi unveiled what she called the Epstein list, asserting that the DOJ had released all legally required files. According to her statements, over 300 high-profile names appeared across various documents, court records, and correspondences. She emphasized that many individuals listed had committed no wrongdoing, and appearing on the list did not imply guilt. Bondi reaffirmed that all files legally required had been released, asserting full compliance with the Epstein Files Transparency Act. For Bondi, this announcement was meant to be a gesture of transparency and legal compliance. Yet, what was intended as a triumph quickly turned into a serious blow to her credibility. Republican prosecutor confronts Bondi. The hearing took a dramatic turn when a Republican prosecutor, normally aligned politically with Bondi, spoke out to confront her. He accused her of shutting down certain investigations and not pursuing some individuals named in the files. He pressed Bondi to justify why key figures were not prosecuted, raising questions about the DOJ's decision-making criteria. He directly challenged her claim that all files had been released, citing internal evidence contradicting the Attorney General's statements. This unexpected confrontation severely undermined Bondi's defense, demonstrating that the criticism was not merely partisan, but based on concrete evidence. Evidence of withheld documents. The prosecutor presented a set of internal DOJ documents proving that some files had never been released publicly. An 86-page SDNY, Southern District of New York, prosecution memorandum outlining initial prosecutorial strategy and findings. A Florida draft indictment naming Epstein's co-conspirators, which had not been disclosed. Internal DOJ emails regarding charging decisions, revealing deliberations behind prosecutorial choices. He also provided official DOJ inventories, confirming the existence of these documents and proving that they were omitted from the public release. These revelations suggest that Bondi not only withheld certain files, but may have violated federal law requiring their disclosure. Controversy over redactions. Even the files that were released had been heavily redacted, with many pages and names blacked out, according to lawmakers. These redactions appear to protect perpetrators rather than victims, raising serious questions about the integrity of the disclosures. In some cases, names initially redacted were later read into the public record during subsequent hearings, intensifying the scandal. This treatment reinforced accusations that Bondi may have minimized the impact of the disclosures and shielded influential individuals. Political fallout and risks. The confrontation with a Republican has had immediate political repercussions. Several members of her own party have publicly criticized Bondi, questioning her transparency and impartiality. Discussions about contempt of Congress and impeachment quickly intensified, with some lawmakers claiming that Bondi had lost all credibility. The fact that the challenge came from her own political side significantly weakens Bondi's defense and exposes her position to serious legal and political consequences. This situation could turn the Epstein case into a defining moment for American justice, highlighting conflicts between legal obligations, political accountability, and the protection of the powerful. The hearing against Pam Bondi illustrates an unprecedented scandal of transparency and accountability. While she claimed to have complied with the law, evidence presented by a prosecutor from her own party reveals significant omissions in internal DOJ documents that were never publicly released. The political stakes are high. The risk of contempt proceedings, impeachment, and public loss of trust is now real. For observers and citizens, this case underscores the importance of governmental transparency and the necessity for officials to fully honor their legal obligations, regardless of political influence. The legal implications. The revelation that Attorney General Pam Bondi may have withheld documents that are explicitly required under the Epstein Files Transparency Act raises serious legal questions. 1. Violation of statutory obligations. The Act clearly mandates the release of all files relating to Epstein, his associates, and prosecutorial decisions. By failing to release the 86-page SDNY memorandum, draft indictments, and internal emails, Bondi could be considered in violation of federal law. Legal scholars argue that invoking deliberative process protections is invalid under this law because Congress intended the statute to override standard confidentiality privileges. 2. Potential contempt of Congress. With evidence that she withheld documents despite repeated claims of full disclosure, Bondi faces a credible risk of contempt proceedings. If Congress votes to hold her in contempt, it could lead to legal sanctions or further investigation. 3. Implications for DOJ transparency. The case highlights systemic issues within the Department of Justice. The tension between internal deliberative confidentiality and statutory obligations to release documents to the public. It raises questions about how DOJ officials interpret and comply with transparency requirements when politically sensitive cases are involved. Political ramifications. The political stakes of this hearing are substantial. 1. Cross-party credibility damage. Normally, Bondi could claim that criticism is partisan, but the fact that a Republican prosecutor challenged her fundamentally undermines this defense. It signals a fracture within her own party regarding accountability and transparency in high-profile cases. 2. Impeachment discourse. With public and congressional attention focused on potential law violations, discussions of impeachment or removal are no longer purely hypothetical. While impeachment is rare for an attorney general, the combination of legal exposure and political fallout makes it a plausible scenario if evidence shows deliberate obstruction or dishonesty. 3. Impact on future DOJ cases. The hearing may influence how future sensitive investigations are handled, particularly those involving elite networks. DOJ prosecutors might now feel increased pressure to fully document decisions and ensure compliance with statutory disclosure mandates. Societal and ethical considerations. Beyond the legal and political dimensions, the case carries societal and ethical significance. 1. Trust in public institutions. The apparent withholding of files, especially in a case as high-profile as Epstein, can erode public confidence in the justice system. Citizens may feel that influential individuals can escape scrutiny while ordinary people face swift legal consequences. 2. Protection of victims versus perpetrators. The controversy over redactions. where the names of perpetrators were often obscured more than those of victims, raises ethical questions about whose interests the DOJ prioritizes. Critics argue that such actions can re-traumatize victims and undermine the principle of justice. 3. Precedent for future transparency. How this hearing resolves will set a precedent for how far DOJ officials can go in restricting public access to sensitive documents in politically charged cases. It may influence future legislation, internal DOJ policy, and public expectations regarding transparency. Strategic implications. From a strategic perspective, the exposure of these missing documents is a major political and legal leverage point. Congressional leaders can use the evidence to pressure Bondi into compliance or face consequences. Opponents could frame the withheld files as proof of systemic corruption or preferential treatment, strengthening calls for broader investigations into Epstein's network and its protectors. For Bondi personally, this represents a long-term reputational risk, potentially ending any aspirations for higher office or prominent roles within her party. A turning point. This hearing represents more than just a procedural dispute. It is a turning point in the Epstein saga and in DOJ accountability. By revealing internal documents that contradict public claims, the hearing exposes vulnerabilities in how high-level officials navigate transparency, partisan pressure, and the law. Whether this leads to legal sanctions, political consequences, or reforms within the DOJ, one fact is clear. The public, Congress, and political observers are now watching closely, and the repercussions for Bondi and the perception of justice in America will be long-lasting. That wraps up our coverage of the explosive hearing confronting Attorney General Pam Bondi over the Epstein files. As evidence emerges of withheld documents and the political fallout intensifies, even within her own party, questions about accountability, justice, and transparency are louder than ever. What does this mean for the Department of Justice, for Congress, and for the American public? We'll continue to follow every development closely and bring you updates as they happen. Make sure you stay connected by subscribing to Rapid Report, hitting the like button, and sharing this video to keep the conversation going. Your engagement helps ensure that critical stories like this reach more people and hold our leaders accountable. Thank you for watching, and stay tuned for more in-depth reporting on the issues that matter most. Remember, the truth is out there, and together we uncover it here at Rapid Report.